This is the Real Mom Hub.
Keep listening for relatable content. That needs to be in this mug. And my tea kettle, this is a Christmas list item. I want one of the pretty swan neck ones. But our tea kettle that we do have, you have to hold the button down right now for it to boil. So you have to stand there and hold the button.
Wouldn't your stove be faster if that's what you're doing?
Yeah, just a pot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Great idea.
Oh my God.
But it's snowy. Did it snow by you?
No. It's gray and nasty.
Sorry, we have snow.
Me too. Okay. I'm very excited about this episode. Really need to get your thoughts on it. I came across this word a few days ago and it hit me like a gut punch. I was like, I felt so seen, and it crystallized in my mind everything that you and I are trying to do here on this platform. There's so much power for me in language and in perspective, and you and I started this because we're already debriefing with each other all the time, learning from each other's experiences, each other's stories. And we're here to tell our stories as well as the women around us so that we all feel seen, we all feel more heard, understood. So that's what this word did for me. And it was a word that I actually came across in pregnancy. It was not a new word for me, but something about the way it was presented was really what hit me, what said to me, hey, I see you. Me too.
Mm-hmm. So all right, so what's the word?
Well, before we get into the word, I think we have to do a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay. Go for it.
First of all, I don't even know if you know this. Our listeners can now text us.
Oh, fun.
Isn't that so fun?
Wow.
Through our podcast app, whatever app you use to listen. So Apple, Spotify, right before
this is funny. I saw our description for the latest episode and I was like, did you just voice text and mess up right here? Because it says text me or something.
No, literally just hit text me. It's right before the episode description. You can hit that little sentence.
Sweet.
And it will land right in our inbox. It's very quick. We love to hear from you. To the listener who already texted, just so everybody knows, it's anonymous. We don't know who you are. We can't actually see your phone number, and we cannot text you back. So we can't.
Okay.
Right? We can't have a conversation with you via text. It's really just if you're saying, oh, I'm loving this. Thank you so much. Or I actually hate what you said there, and here's why. Please give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. We're here to learn with you. If you have any experts related to content we've shared that we should do deep dives, we're here to learn. So please let us know. To those of you who've been reaching out via email, social, text, it means the world to us. So thank you so much for engaging. It just totally makes our day to see that.
Yes, every time.
Every time. Cal, what are you loving about motherhood this week, and what's hard for you?
Wow. I did not prepare for that going in. It's been a bit of a whirlwind day, which is great. It's fine.
You've had a whole week.
I have, yeah, which is good. What am I loving about motherhood? My kids' joy with the snow. I just love whenever they wake up and it snowed. The first time that it did this year, Charlie goes, "Is it Christmas?" I had to say, "No, buddy, not yet." But he's just so excited, and he knows now to open the blinds, make sure that there's snow still or not. And Nora doesn't really get it till we go outside. And then this girl, she's just kind of a wild card anyways, but she just runs as far away as she can so that she can have as long as she is able without someone catching her to just scoop it up. Bare hands. She just wants to touch it. Run, play in the snow until someone catches her.
Wow.
It's so cute.
That's really, really cute.
Yes. What is challenging about motherhood? Nora's not sleeping.
Still?
It's totally random. We'll have one night when she'll sleep through the night. And then weeks of horrible. And we can't figure it out. We cannot find a formula. We've even tried the sleep training things that we did with Charlie, and they're not working the same way. I mean, we're sort of at a loss.
Okay, community, text us.
Please.
Text us your tips on getting difficult children to sleep. Are you feeding her right before she goes to bed? High fat?
So she's not nursing anymore. She's fully weaned.
Yeah, but an avocado or banana or some people say
last
butter.
Last night I did a bunch of yogurt.
Okay.
Whole milk yogurt, but butter's a good idea. Just
never done it.
I might just give her a pat of butter because she would eat it.
Yeah.
Because avocado she normally does in the morning. That's an idea. Yeah, because
Maybe
I
like
mean, I'm really at a loss.
mix it with a little Benadryl
Yes, we haven't
with a
done it
little
yet.
butter whip with
Please,
Benadryl.
you're anonymous, so text us if you've tried that, please, because
It's a little frowned upon, right?
it sure is. The other thing that's been really challenging, actually more so challenging than the lack of sleep, is that she's such a daddy's girl right now. So during the day, it's fine. Like, I'm exactly what she wants, she needs. But at night, she only wants Kevin. So it's like roles are reversed because I'm not nursing anymore. It's like Kevin's the only one that can soothe her in the middle of the night right now. So he's sleep deprived. I'm sleep deprived because I don't sleep through her crying like he did when I was nursing, you know? So.
Whew.
Yeah. So if anyone has any ideas, send them my way. Thank you.
Yeah, we witnessed that at Thanksgiving when we were sharing a hotel suite.
Your kid wasn't sleeping either, to be fair.
No. I mean her like extreme preference for Kevin.
Oh, yes.
I was like,
it's really hard
are
right now.
you for real, baby girl?
Yeah, like nobody likes it.
Nobody, not a cute look.
No.
Not a cute look.
Nope. It's been pretty chuff.
Challenging tough?
Yes, it's been chuff. That is so true. How about you? What are you loving? Maybe do your challenging one first so we can sandwich.
Okay. Sure. Challenging is there's so much good happening in our life right now. Kyle has a job offer he's really thrilled about.
Yay.
We've been in a season of career changes, which we knew was coming. It was, planned for. It's all good. He's been great. So we got our best case scenario, I would say, and he just signed the offer, which is, I'm thrilled for him. For us, I think it's great. In the midst of so much goodness, I just had the past 2 days, Sunday, Monday of this week, I was so low, depleted, numb, no energy, sad, fragile for 2 straight days. Just, I woke up feeling like I could shatter at any minute. And that is just not normal for me prior to postpartum. So I was like, I'm over my kid's 16 months old. It was just very shocking to me, and it was clearly hormonal, but the knowledge that it's hormonal doesn't really change anything when you're in the sad tunnel.
Are there any reasons?
I mean, I'm probably close to ovulation, so I think I'm going to start tracking my cycle just to have that knowledge.
Are you weaning?
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah, that can really fish you over.
Really? Can it?
Yeah.
Oh,
like bad.
Yeah. Since the weekend, I've been trying to say no to daytime feeding, so we do just morning and night.
There you go.
Cow pal.
So sorry, it doesn't solve anything.
Well, it's good to know that there's an end, and I'm not going to just potentially face it again next month.
Yeah, I mean, some women, I swear we've talked about this before. Maybe
probably. You know me.
This is like when I tell you when I gave you a babysitter like 4 times, and then like the 5th time you were like, oh, thank you so much. I
think you may have manufactured the first 2 times. But, it takes me a while, okay? My lived experience, you can't tell me. I got to feel it.
So quick.
I got to feel it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm here. I'm there. It's like this word. I knew the word. I had to feel it to say, oh, wow, this is so crucial to women. The word we're talking about.
My point is from roasting you that we have talked about this before, so apologies to our listeners if it was on the podcast. I literally can't remember. But I have a friend that like was going to get crazy testing at UW because she was having vision loss.
No, you did tell me that. I did. The vision loss is stuck in my brain. I just didn't connect.
And that's what they said. She didn't like make that up. Like she's very scientific. It wasn't like a woo-woo like, oh, it was from weaning. The doctor was like, we can't find anything wrong with you. We're pretty sure this is why.
Oh.
And like it returned, like she's back to normal. Sure. But yeah, wild things can happen, man.
It makes so much sense. Thank you so much for connecting those dots for me. I was not connecting them. This is why we do this.
Yes, it is. Okay, what's something good?
Kyle and I finished decorating our Christmas tree last night.
Oh.
And having Kieran, first of all, like we had it, up with just the lights on before.
Yeah.
And his favorite thing, he can be very gentle. When he's not gentle, it's a choice. He would walk up to it, and your listeners, like, you can't see me, but he would just go with his hands up in the air and like stick his whole torso and start rubbing the branches.
In the tree. I hope you got like a nice fur so it's soft.
It's really
so cute.
Really cute. And then when he woke up this morning and we showed him the tree with all the ornaments on it, he was like,
so
and had to go like touch all the ones in the lower where they're like baby proof-ish, not really.
Is it a happy thought or a sad thought that was probably the last time that you two will put the ornaments on by yourself? Like, he might want to help next year.
Well, I hadn't had that thought, so thank you for putting it in my brain.
Like, do you think, oh my gosh, that's going to be so fun? Or are you like, okay.
But also, he's going to be like 2 next year. He'll probably
Yeah.
put 1 or 2 on, and then he's going to go to bed.
That's true. That's true. They ease you in.
Yeah.
I love Christmas.
I love Christmas so much. Okay, should we get into the meat of the
Drum
episode?
roll.
Here's the word. Are you ready? It's matrescence.
You said it really weird. Can you try it again?
Okay, so I've been saying matrescence. Matrescence sounds way better to me. And then since this word came into my brain a couple days ago, I've been listening to some TED Talks, some interviews.
Stop.
Say matrescence.
That's ugly.
Okay, well, I didn't come up with the word.
It makes sense. Like,
we can
maternity.
say matrescent. Let's say matrescence.
No,
matrescence.
Please.
That's fine. No, we
Okay,
can.
great.
We're going to do that right now, here and there. So I'm going to start with how this word came to be and then why it hit me in the gut recently.
Okay.
So Dana Raphael was an anthropologist in the 1970s, and she's the one who coined this term, which is the rite of passage where changes occur in a woman's physical state, in her status within the group, in her emotional life, in her focus of daily activity, in her own identity, and in her relationships with all those around her through new motherhood. So it's this highly complex topic. Yeah. And when you just read it off like that, that's kind of how I held the word like a year ago and was like, yeah, of course it's a lot. New motherhood. Yeah.
It's like too much to process.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks. Moving on.
Yeah.
What I recently saw was that, and this is part of her original paper, I believe. One of the women I follow on Instagram, and I should have saved the post and I didn't, I couldn't find it today, but she juxtaposed matrescence against adolescence. And that's when it changed everything for me, because we've all gone through adolescence. Like, as a society, if you were to ask anyone in the country, well, what is adolescence? They could probably tell you, and they would have some feels. They would
especially if you say the puberty word. Like,
oh
what
my
is puberty?
God. Yes, they would have a lot of feels. It's normalized. It's everywhere in society. It is understood.
Yeah.
All
it's
of
taught
the challenges.
In school.
Yes, exactly.
You go through it together in school. There's resources together. Yeah.
You're afforded certain graces.
Yeah.
So that is what I deeply want for matrescence. For someone who I don't know on the internet to say, do you remember that time when your whole body changed? You didn't know who you were when you looked in the mirror anymore. And at the same time, you had the most massive hormonal shifts of your life. Your skin was breaking out. You didn't know who you were in relation to your friends anymore based on changes. You didn't know who you were in relation to the opposite sex. Your relationship with your parent figures are changing, with your family, with
your
the
spouse,
woman in the grocery line, like all
with
of
your
it.
Workplace. Yeah. There's no part of your life that's not touched by that.
No.
Yeah.
And then I just got to thinking about what society, how they normalize and understand adolescence. And that is deeply what I want for matrescence.
So when 1973. Okay. So it's been around. Like, I mean, okay, the concept has been around literally forever.
Right, but the word.
But the word, like, actually trying to explain it and make it something that is normalized started in the 70s, which was a while ago. I mean, it's almost 2025.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard that word until becoming a mother. I was listening to a mom podcast when I heard that word for the first time.
What did you think when you heard that word? Do you remember? Did it strike you?
Yes, I do remember being really excited that there was a word, but it was pretty early on. Like, I think I was only a couple months postpartum. And so I don't think I fully understood it because it's like puberty. I mean, it takes a long time. I'm not really sure when it stops. You know, like, we probably haven't even done enough research on it. And it's one of those things where it's going to be different for everybody. But I just remember feeling like a sense of awe and permission to just totally be transformed, which is funny. I mean, that's such a me thing to say. Like, I needed permission to feel a transformation in motherhood. But yeah, but I didn't understand it then. So I'm glad you're bringing it back up because I think I might have a new way of really connecting with it.
Yay. So I think we should debrief. So for our listeners, we debrief all the time. A debrief is like, how did you, let's talk about this thing that happened at the family gathering. Or
But literally
this
all
thing happened to
that
me
starts
today.
with like, so blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh. Blah, blah, blah.
No, yeah, that's the debrief. That's the loose structure. I actually have more of a structure for this debrief, but I just want to make it clear that neither of us are experts. And as I've sat with this word for the past few days and looked into it, there are so many experts on this topic who are writing books, who are giving TED Talks,
amazing.
and so we're going to definitely link those in the show notes. And I highly encourage you to go and check out the actual experts.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus, and this is what we do on the podcast here, is just to talk through our own lived experience, kind of process in real time together. But please go check out the experts as well. And that brings me to the next piece of the journey of this word. A psychiatrist, Dr. Alexandra Sachs, is the one who really popularized the term more recently. So she was talking to a lot of patients who were experiencing postpartum depression symptoms, and she would take them through the clinical diagnoses, and they didn't always have postpartum depression in the way that she understood it clinically. And this happened so frequently that she was like, oh my God, what is happening? Like these women, just because I'm not diagnosing them with this clinical condition doesn't mean that they're not all feeling the same really difficult thing. How do we talk about this? Is there a word for this? Nothing exists in my medical training. And that's when she came across this paper. And so I do encourage everyone to check out her TED Talk. There's so many views. We'll link it in the
and
notes.
That was, so her essay, The Birth of a Mother, was in 2017. So it was brought to the public's attention recently, like in 2017. That's wild to me.
Yeah. Yep. Zoe Blaskey in the UK is doing a lot with, she runs Motherkind. She's doing really good work there. Again, we'll link these women.
Go women.
I know. Here's what I'm thinking for today. I think we should talk about the similarities between adolescence and matrescence. And we can talk about how they're different. And then I do want to dive into just the postpartum depression conversation a little bit too. I think they're adjacent.
I love it.
Okay, great. So I have a little table drawn up because when I don't know what I think about something, it's helpful for me to put it
go, girl.
in a little grid. So the similarities, I have like 5 columns.
Okay.
Or different like categories for us to talk about. Adolescence and matrescence, they both have transition periods. It's like both a period of change. It's a period of extreme biological change as well. It's accompanied by emotional angst, turmoil, high highs, low lows. And you're essentially just reshaping your identity during both of these periods. And then there are cultural reactions or expectations associated with both as well, or misunderstand. Let's start with transition periods.
And I want to giggle because on my like AI Google search of the word, right at the way at the bottom, it says, it just says some ways to ease the transition include self-care.
Thank you.
Right? Wait, I'm not done.
Thank you.
Dividing responsibilities with a partner.
Cool.
Resting when possible. Getting help from a loved one.
Do you feel rested right now, Callie?
Hell no. And like none of them are wrong.
No.
It's just so funny that like there's this big transition and like that's what they say. And it's like, but how? How? Okay.
So both
adolescence first. Okay, you go.
Well, they're both a major transition of like who you are and what you're supposed to do in life. And you're like redefining who you are and with what terms you'd like to operate in the world.
But I think the nice part is adolescence, you really like don't have the brain fully developed. So you really can't make sense of it. And it's just kind of a mess.
It's totally a mess, but there are constraints put around that for your safety.
You have parents.
Well, I was going to say, if you are lucky enough to have reliable parents or parent figures, that's a big one. If you're, if you have school, you know what you're going to be doing Monday through Friday at a bare minimum, what's expected of you during those hours.
And like, you know what you need to accomplish to be, successful in society. Like, you need to do your homework. and show up. And yeah.
And if you choose to not do those things, I mean, you're at the point in life when you can kind of make that choice, and
Yeah.
you're also old enough to understand there are repercussions, but they're kind of laid out for you. It helps, I think, that you're all in it together.
At the same time. Well, I mean, in a general chunk of time.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. Adolescence, you're like, it's kind of between the ages of like 10 and 20. It usually doesn't take that long for everybody, but
Yeah.
you kind of know, like, okay, this is going to be over at some point. My body's changing, but I know it's going to be over. And when it's over, this is what I can expect.
Yeah, I always thought of that as just my adult body. Like I thought
Yes.
that was like the end, and then until you start, when's the point when you actually start like dying?
I
Like
don't know.
deteriorating, right? Like that's
Don't
just gonna
tell
be my
me. I'm gonna
body
ignore it.
until I hit this age, and that's when I'm gonna start whatever, and it's
Yeah.
fine. And that's the circle of life. I never thought, oh, I'm gonna do this again.
No. And it's like really awkward when you're like 18 and you're like, this is my adult body, which I think
Look at
I
me.
did. Yeah, when I was
Look at
8. Totally. Yeah, it's not really your adult body, but you know, like it's still a weird gray area. I get it. Like I would take matrescence, frankly, over adolescence any day of the week. But
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing because it's really hard.
It is. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think back to adolescence for you versus me. Like for you, you were the first sister. So you had a bit more of the spotlight situation, I think.
Oh, it was deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then when it was like, it had become kind of a joke when it got to me.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like just tricky for every kid. It just is.
And every parent, I'm sure.
Oh God, I don't want to think about that.
Well, boys, I don't know. Like boys, I've always heard that's easier. So we'll see.
Well, you got both, honey.
I do. Yes, I sure do. Yep.
So both, there's like a period of time, but I do think adolescence is like, okay, the cutoff is kind of college. Do you only go through matrescence once and it's the first time you have a baby, or do you go through it every time anew with each kid?
Well, I think it's once. Sorry, I need a candle. It was available. It looks like I'm like hotboxing. It's a nice candle. Okay, do we go through it more than once? I don't think so. That's my hot take.
Okay.
I think it's different every time, but I think that first child, that first becoming a mother, that's earth-shattering in every way it could be. And then nothing can be that earth-shattering again.
Okay, so that's my hot take as someone who's had a single child also. So I'm curious, if you could please do a little market research for me. I'll ask Mom what she thinks, because there are 11 years between Naomi and me, our youngest sister.
Okay.
But I know you have a couple moms in your circle who also chose to get pregnant, or didn't choose, whatever, have a child much later. So I'm curious what their take is. Like, do you go through it all over again? Or
you mean like spaced out kids?
Sorry. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I want to know. What do they think?
I want to know. Okay.
I want to know.
So do you do matrescence more than once?
Yeah.
Oh.
People, text us. Let me know what you think. Are you well?
No. Look at my pen.
What is happening over there?
Sorry. I'm a hot mess. I was feeling pretty actually together today. Okay. All right. On my to-dos. Yeah, that's it. Because I do have a couple of friends that have like we're talking 20 years spaced.
Yeah, wild.
Kids. I know. But yes, no, that's wild. I've had 2 and they were close together, but nothing can be like the first time.
Thank God.
It's my hot take. I don't know. We'll see.
Let's go back there a little bit with biological changes. Like,
okay,
you remember bad skin, or difference between being friends with a guy, or maybe like for me, I always used too much logic, so I thought my friends' crushes were like really silly at the time, which is like so annoying to be that girl. Like, why was I like that? You know?
Did you really not have any crushes?
I don't recall I definitely noticed a shift of like, oh, he's cute. Oh, I'm actually like really nervous around him.
Okay. But you just like didn't let yourself call it a crush.
Totally. Or like I didn't embrace the daydreaming, or I just didn't think that it was like when I was 14. And I had a high school boyfriend, like, you know, through most of high school. I'm not saying that I did. I'm just, when it first started and I was noticing those changes, I was very cognizant of the fact that I was still a kid. Like we were only play acting at mature adult romantic relationships. It wasn't like the real deal.
And I was a romantic. Like, I was playing out, romantic love scenes in my head.
I did that,
Okay.
but they were mostly like made up. Like I was more likely to do that with the character of a novel than like a real person.
Or Christian Bale in Newsies.
He's in Newsies?
Oh, he is the guy in
I've
Newsies.
never seen it.
Oh,
I know.
oh my gosh. Him singing, he's got like his cowboy hat on. He's singing Santa Fe. Oh, and he can dance.
What?
His singing is like fine, but it's fine. That was I can tell you 100% that was my first crush. Maybe my only like real celebrity crush, and I was head over heels.
Whoa. Okay.
How funny is that?
That's incredible. Now I have to watch Newsies.
It's really good. It's really, really good.
Okay. I believe you. I've heard this feedback from others also. Just haven't.
It's a great, based on a true story. Everybody should watch Newsies.
Okay. All right. Shout out. So I guess, we're kind of hopping into like redefining relationships in this one, but it like those hormone changes were what was affecting that. Like they're strong enough to affect your daydreams, who you think about, your fascination with others. And I mean, like kind of crazier with a baby.
Yeah, definitely less acceptable.
What do you mean?
I mean, you like in adolescence, everyone just assumes you're going to have these crazy hormones and have crushes. And, in motherhood, that's not like an assumed thing. Oh, she has a new baby. She might be feral. It's like, oh, she has a new baby. She has this beautiful, open, motherly heart.
Oh, or like the assumptions are potentially incorrect. They're not one size fits all. Like, the myth that when you have your baby, you're going to bond immediately and the baby's going to be your everything and it's going to be so joyful and so happy and you're going to enter this so gracefully. Like that's a bald-faced lie.
Which I think we have kind of acknowledged that part, thankfully.
Yeah.
At least women, it seems. At least our generation, maybe.
Sure. Well, I think the attachment to the baby too, like that urge to hold them and get the oxytocin hit so constantly. You can talk about the hormones, you can talk about postpartum hormones, but I think there's something deeper there in terms of like leaving your baby or how hard that is. That's something that I think societally we don't necessarily recognize. Like something in your body is urging you,
screaming to not do that.
Screaming for you to be in physical contact with your baby.
And at the same time, you might be legitimately physically screaming at your partner to take this baby because 100%. You need a fishing break.
Yes.
Well, your body isn't screaming at you that you need to be holding this baby.
Right. And that is crazy making.
And I'm
it
laughing
makes you feel
because,
crazy.
Yeah. It's not something to laugh about. I'm just laughing because it's so wild.
I never felt crazy as an adolescent. Ever.
Oh, yeah. No.
Like I never questioned my mental sanity or like adjustments I needed to make in my life based on how I was feeling or reacting or responding to my environment. As a fresh mother, I'm like, oh my God, do I need help?
Yeah, because in adolescence, we're not cognizant enough to do that. Like that's not even really developmentally appropriate versus motherhood, like depending on how old you are, like you can, your prefrontal cortex is developed. Like,
sure,
you have the ability to do that. So then it's almost like worse when you feel like you can't.
Yeah. No, 100. Like I have X number of years of data built up on my own behavior and ability to exist healthily, successfully. And it's like that's all irrelevant now. I can't access any of those tools.
Yeah, also, like when you're going through adolescence, it doesn't hurt.
Oh.
And when you've just had a baby, like regardless of how it came out, like your body just hurts. Like intense pain. Which is just like a surprising thing to deal with. I mean, it's gonna come, but it's just, especially when you're young and pretty healthy, like not used to having your body be just in pain. Like
sure.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Weird.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm underplaying it, and I don't mean to be.
When you're saying it's weird. Well, it's not.
Just my tone of voice. It's just, yeah.
Well, like when you do a hard thing, for me at least, I think it's good to talk about it and set some expectations.
Yeah.
Or just because you've done it once doesn't mean it will be the same again. Right. As a society right now, I think we're actually reveling too much sometimes like exploring all of the difficulties and talking about all of it. And I'm like, if that helps you, great. But I don't know if that's necessarily something that's helpful to I don't know.
It's not what we're talking about today, but it's a thing.
Yes, yeah. Biological changes. Okay, we're talking about hormones, also the physical. Like my body's never going to be the same ever again. And
No.
just because you can fit into genes again doesn't mean that you're shaped the same or that when the genes come off, you look the same. Like I think you show up to work or wherever, and eventually at a certain point, people couldn't tell that you just had a baby. But like swimsuit season will never be the same. And for some women, it is. But just not all.
I do just feel like I have a more stereotypically maternal shape now. Those birthing hips are real.
After number 2 for you, though.
Yeah, more so than number 1. Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like once you do adolescence, like you're so awkward, but when you start to get over the awkwardness, you just feel kind of hot. You're like, oh, I'm, a sexual being now, and I wasn't before.
And this is cool.
But I actually feel that way in a different way, but just as empowering after having birthed a child. Like it's more of a goddess feeling or like a hear me roar feeling, especially with my husband. I think it just gave me more body confidence in some ways because my body is so purposeful. So even though I look different, it's for a purpose and it's for a reason and it did something incredible. And I do think it made me feel not hot, but I don't know. I don't know if beautiful is the word. Yeah, just strong, powerful, just yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. It's like an internal knowing. And for me, it's not. I feel like when you're young, it's and you're past puberty and you're going out to a bar, you're like, oof,
Right.
did he notice me? Because I look really good tonight.
Yeah.
If you didn't, like,
yes.
Sorry for you. Now I'm like, couldn't care less.
And
if
like
you
sometimes
noticed me and maybe you're looking at me and I feel great. And if this person doesn't see it, like it just doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Like I literally don't care. Like if you can't see it, it's your loss.
Or
Because
like
this body has given me and my family so much richness that like you can't even fathom unless it happens to you. And God, I hope it does,
Well, and like the young men, we look young enough where sometimes it'll be like all of a high school boy, for instance, that will like give me the once over and it's just hilarious. Like it's so freaking funny now. Or even like someone that's my age but that's not a dad. Even that to me is just so funny because they just don't have a clue.
Like you don't even know why sexual attraction is the fishing coolest thing.
Yes. Yeah, it's just so funny.
Like you think it's all about so sex, buddy? No.
So funny.
I think we got off topic, but I loved it.
That was fun.
So, okay, we talked about physical changes, emotional turmoil or angst. There's in both adolescence and matrescence, there's a whole lot of that. High highs, low lows, feeling like pressure or stress or anxiety, meeting what you think life demands of you, whether it's getting into college or like high test scores or that competition or that game that you desperately want to show up for well in adolescence, or as a mom going back to work, or honestly just maintaining relationships with other friends. Can be so. Yeah, there's a lot there emotionally. Both are different but similar.
Yeah, but again, like matrescence, like there's a little being depending on you.
Yeah.
So you just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and again with the timing, I think in adolescence it's like, oh my God, this one thing didn't go well and it's gonna ruin my whole week. It's very short-sighted, but at the same time, that you're gonna reach adulthood and you're gonna exit this phase versus matrescence, where it's like you're watching a baby scream and you can't figure out why, and it's the end of your life, but it's gonna end. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna come out of it.
Yeah, my whole body, like.
But you're like, but when does it end? But
Yeah.
It's like, when does it ever end? Does it end? Does it just change?
I had a mom, I just asked her how her newborn was the other day, and all she had to say was, and she said it very calmly, "Well, she's pretty colicky." And I was like, "Oh, so sorry. That's horrible."
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're not gonna like come to tea and be like, my baby is so colicky. Let me unload all of this on you because
Right,
you
'cause you literally don't have
know
time.
you don't have time, you don't have energy. Like all your energy is going to just holding it together. So you are gonna say, oh, she's really colicky. Like that's
Because you
it.
have to. Because
Yeah.
yeah. Yep. 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 There. Have you ever seen those like social media little posts where it's like, when you're 38 weeks pregnant and you could become a mother in 2 hours or 2 weeks?
I've not seen
And
this.
you just don't know. Like, that's the craziest thing, especially with your first one. Like, matrescence is not like this slow burn where, like, you get your first armpit hair and then you're like, oh,
Oh,
whatever.
that's a good point too.
Like, it literally could be 2 hours or 2 weeks, and you will suddenly be a mother. I
Yeah.
mean, I do think you are when you have that like baby in your belly at 38 weeks, but it's not the same. I mean,
No,
that's
it is not.
insane.
I'm getting stressed. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on to identity reshaping. That's our fourth.
Oof. Heavy hitter here.
Yep.
I mean, I just don't think you give a fish in adolescence so much.
Are
I
you
mean, you do.
serious?
Everybody's doing it.
What do you
I don't
mean?
know. It's like, I don't think I thought about it that much. Like, life was hard. I
Sure.
cried, whatever. Like, I was dramatic. But it wasn't like, what can I do to be my best self? Like, how is this shaping me? How can I reshape my life to fit this new mold? Like, I just wasn't thinking deeply about it.
I wasn't thinking deeply, but I was having a lot of feels. Like,
Yeah.
because you're entering adulthood, you're supposed to be getting more responsibilities for yourself. You're supposed to be making more choices for yourself. There are less boundaries set for you by
Mm-hmm.
your parents at least. And it by the time you're in high school, it's kind of all ramping up to, well, in a few years I'm going to be out of the house. Like detaching or like defining my own sense of autonomy was pretty top of mind for me, I would say.
Yeah, I guess. I think though it was so selfish. Maybe that's the difference
Totally.
for me. Like, in adolescence, it's completely self-centered, and it's supposed to be. And
Yes.
even if I thought it wasn't, it still
Oh, it
was.
was
Like, even if
totally
I like
self-centered.
wanted to change the world and do blah 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 blah, it's still self-centered.
Yep.
Versus motherhood, it's how can I shift my identity to stay true to myself, and I mean, top of mind is how can I be the best mom I can be.
Yeah.
And I think
Adolescence.
this is a big statement, but I guess I have a lot of faith in people. I think every mom kind of feels that. Like, I think we have this biological thing that just like wants you to be the best mom. And we don't always have the support or the resources to get there, but I do think that's a universal thought. Maybe that's really wrong, but
I don't know. I would think so. All the moms in my circle 100%.
yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. We spend time as adolescents fully detaching, working on our self sufficiency, and then matrescence is all about defining that support and foundation for another human, like being
Yeah.
dependent on giving so much of yourself. It's really a beautiful full circle, actually. Like, I kind of love this parallel because
Mhm.
it's I was telling Kyle this last night as we hung Christmas ornaments.
That's just such a beautiful picture.
Oh, it's great. Christmas to me is so healing
Mm.
every year. And it's not that I'm healing anything broken. So I don't know why healing is the word that's so pressing on me, but it is healing. And going through parenthood is the same for me. And Christmas is healing to me because we had a really idyllic childhood where the Christmases were great. And I recognize that's not true for everyone. But parenthood, I think for me, is the same because I'm viewing my relationship with mom and dad so differently. Like when
Mhm.
you're seeing the world through the eyes of this tiny person and their needs, how can that not intrinsically change you at your core?
I would say even before becoming a mother, but being an adult, I cared deeply if I got good presents. I really wanted some great presents.
For people to give you?
Oh yeah, I just was so excited. It wasn't like a you better give me a good present. It was like I can't wait to open up
So
my
funny.
gifts. Which I think is partly because I'm not a big like I'm a thrifter. I get anxious about overspending. Like
Yeah.
I don't treat myself frequently.
True.
So like Christmas, I just know like mom and dad always do a great job. Like Kevin usually goes overboard. Like I just know I'm going to get nice things. Since having kids, I can't wait for them to open up their gifts. Like I
Yeah.
just love it.
Mhm.
And that's just like that little change with Christmas where I'm so excited to gift them. And like
Yeah.
it's fun to get presents, but
You just give more. You're
yeah.
hardwired to give.
Yes.
And I think we're talking about identity reshaping right now, I think we do need to also address not the death of your old self. That's so dramatic. But like you kind of wake up after giving birth and you're in a different place than you were a few days ago. And so it's
Every
so
day.
important to not lose that woman.
Yeah.
Like, how do you embrace the changing identity? How do you accept it? How do you say, yes, this is me and this other person is also me? Because if you let go of that person and relinquish that person completely and just sole service of your kids, that's not healthy for your kids.
No, but I actually had to let go of some stubbornness of like, well, this is what I used to like to do. This is how I used to have me time. And I had to start to let that go and realize that it's okay if that changed. And then I was more peaceful.
I'm still in that fight. I relinquished a lot of fight, but I'm still in the fight of what am I owed?
Yeah, me too.
By myself. And I'm not even like
Yes.
asking other, it's like what does my human dignity as a mother entitle me to outside of my children and spouse? Do I care how much of that do I care about? And how much of it do I have energy to put into maintaining? I mean, I'm still in the fight mode. I'd love to get further into the peace mode.
I just need you to know it is so beautifully snowing. I mean, I'm just like looking out my window, thinking these very deep thoughts. And it's beautiful.
With your candle.
With my candle.
Well, I haven't set up my podcast studio yet, and so I'm just on Kyle's like office downstairs, which is really cluttered. Like I can't work in a cluttered space. I'm sorry, it wrecks my mind. Like I'm just sitting here, like I can't acknowledge what's around me right now. I'm just really moving on. So
Moving on.
last pillar, social and cultural reactions.
Yeah, this one I think is a little more depressing.
Tell me about it. Why?
Well, I mostly think about workplace.
Mm.
Because when I was going through matrescence, I was working. And as much as people want to be there for you and acknowledge, they have no idea.
This is why I feel so strongly about this word gaining traction, this concept. I want it taught in schools. I
Yeah.
want our 5-year-olds to understand what matrescence is. I want them to understand what putrescence is, which is fatherhood. I think you and I should examine that in our and with our husbands. I think that's we haven't talked about that, but that's crucial as well. It's not just a time of transition for women. So I want kids to know this term. I want them to recognize it when they see a mom with a new baby or a dad with a new baby. I want children to know they are going through some shit.
But I mean, do you? Because
Yes.
no, I don't. I don't think a 5-year-old needs to hold that burden.
It doesn't need to be a burden. When you're 5 or 6, you know that high schoolers are different than you and adults are different than you. I think it's a really normal thing to say, she's a new mom and she's going through matrescence. And it doesn't need to mean a bad thing. You don't need to put a burden on a 5-year-old, but you can say, this is a huge piece of her life right now. We're going to treat her with more care.
Like, why are you making dinner? Well, she's going through matrescence.
Exactly. It should be a casual word for everyone. And then as it becomes more crucial, you can examine it more deeply. But everyone should know about it, because also I think something I'm grappling with is there are women in my life who are choosing to never have kids, which is great. And I love that we in 2024 can do that. But it's like this fork in the road. In adolescence, all your peers go through it. Everyone who's an adult has gone through adolescence. And matrescence, you choose it. It's a fork in the road. many women are never going to experience this kind of growth. They will grow in other ways. It's not to say they don't grow, but it is very different. And there's no way for them to understand or for you to understand them, frankly. It's really a fork in the road. And I think we're stronger having both types of growth in our community, but it is different.
I do think women have an easier time understanding it and acknowledging it than men, even if they have not gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think it's something that is more innate. Yeah. I mean, obviously, for women. But yes, it is something that I want to understand it more myself, like not just for other people, but as someone that's already gone through it, I'd still like to know more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just like right when you say social cultural expectations, I just think about men in the workplace. Like and expecting women to be at work and thinking that you're giving them grace, but really not giving them enough grace.
When you're a little shithead 15-year-old and you make a dumb choice or you lash out or you rebel, you are afforded a lot of grace. People are like, well, developmentally, this is kind of appropriate. There's no space for women in which matrescence is like, well, that's developmentally appropriate. I don't think that's a phrase that I've ever thought in my head when I see a new mom struggling or asking questions or behaving in a way that doesn't make sense to me. My go-to is she okay? But it's not, well, that's developmentally appropriate. It's not my place to judge whether or not she's okay. It's just my job to show up and say, oh, this struggle is developmentally appropriate for your position right now. How can I help?
Yeah, and I think it is our job with other moms to just say, like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's healthy. I mean, it's hard.
It's so hard.
But it is healthy and there can be so much growth.
So good.
Yeah.
Brings me to the last thing I want to talk about or get your thoughts on is just the postpartum depression. That is something that I think we've done a better job of talking about. And it's crazy to me that it has taken so long for us to normalize it. And I mean, that's a whole other episode. The fact that, as far as I can see, and you let me know if you have a different experience, but my experience of motherhood is there's on one hand, like the beautiful social media accounts where she's graceful, she's well dressed, she's putting food on the table, she's snuggling her newborn and she's saying, enjoy every minute. Like it is fleeting. It goes so fast. I'm loving this. I'm going to be so sad when it's over. That's
Which
what we
is
have.
true, right? Like, it's not wrong. But
no, yeah. And I have moments of that. But there is, I think, this ideal or this like social upholding of that mom, that mother.
Yes.
Where it's natural. She's a natural mother. She's a natural nurturer. There's that on one hand. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's postpartum depression. Like, are you sad? Are your hormones so imbalanced that you need medication? Do you have anxiety? Do you have thoughts of self-harm? You get that little chart at your checkup appointments and you have to answer all these questions, which is great. But I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's like, anyways. So
they didn't even read it. Like, I remember going to the pediatrician and like filling it out and I don't think they read it.
No, it's just something you do. And the questions are dumb.
Yes.
They are not holistic. They are not all encompassing. So anyways, my point is, if I'm trying to figure out if I'm okay or if I'm well or what to ask for or how I should see myself, why am I just on a scale between joyful, intuitive, graceful motherhood and you have acute hormonal mental illness? Why am I somewhere in the middle of that? I think it's insulting to women to say, you're either an okay mom and it's kind of hard, but you'll figure it out, or you actually have this thing called postpartum depression, which is misdiagnosed all the time still. And if you think you have postpartum depression, or a little bit of it, who knows where you are on the scale, if your medical professional's putting you there, if you're putting yourself there, I mean, you're more likely to engage in like depressive tendencies than if someone says to you, adolescence takes roughly, from the ages of 14 to 20. That's a big, long spread. You're doing that in 3 months.
Yep.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I just went on a rampage.
I guess I I don't know. I don't want to normalize depression, but I do think it's very normal. So I'm not trying to say that it's okay or it's the goal, but I just think I think every mom probably goes through at least a little bit of it because it's just such a shock to the system, like just on a mental, emotional level.
Yeah.
But then, physically, hormonally, it's a shock to the system. So I just do think it's very normal. I also think that it's really hard to know what your baseline is when you're a doctor that only has seen you since you became pregnant. Maybe they did your
Right.
pap every year. Like
Sure.
they have no basis for that. So unless you're already in therapy, like nobody really knows,
Mm-hmm.
which is really difficult. And mental health care is really expensive. So a lot of Americans can't afford it or aren't choosing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I also think like I remember on that stupid sheet thing, the first time around, my OB was like, "So you're at the point where we can refer you. Like, do you want to be referred?" And I don't even
Referred to,
to a mental health, like
yeah.
psychologist, psychiatrist. And I don't even think that's an appropriate thing. I think that should be, we're gonna refer you.
Ah, yeah.
Like I wasn't in a position to say, yes, please refer me.
Sure. And I straight up lied on that sheet and I thought I was telling the truth.
Yes.
I so that's the piece where I think if there's better language, it will help the conversation be more fruitful for everyone. Because while I was filling out that sheet, I would see a hard question and I would say, oh God, yeah, it's really hard to wake up every morning. Or, but I'm so sleep deprived, I'm not sleeping.
Right.
Or, no, I can do my job. I can totally do my job. I am showing up every day and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm putting in over 8 hours or whatever, and everything's fine. It was a dumb question
Yeah.
because, I mean, when I saw that question, I was like, oh my God, how lucky am I? I'm so
Mm-hmm.
lucky. There are
Mm-hmm.
women who are so much worse off than I am. That was my thought every single time. Oh, this sheet isn't for me. I'm so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I can handle this.
And I guess maybe my point is I don't think that it should be as negative.
But that's why I want matrescence in there. It's not a negative. Adolescence, you have so many feels about it, but it's not like, oh God, that's awful. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
that was hard. But some people will still tell you high school were the best days of their lives. I question their commitment to personal growth outside of that. But, I'm just, adolescence is a mixed bag. Postpartum
Yes.
depression is negative. Matrescence is a mixed bag.
Yes. And
It
there's
just adds complexity to the issue.
Yep, and adolescence is a necessary thing.
Yes.
Anything matrescence for a lot of women is a necessary path to growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can still be a human and a functioning adult, but you're not going to grow in those ways without this. Because who would choose something that hard if you really knew how hard it was going to be?
And you never will until you're in it.
Right.
But let's normalize it as a phase of womanhood
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful and really hard.
and really hard. So the first step is talking about it. The second step
Matrescence.
is saying I see you to the women who are going through it in your life and giving them additional dignity, grace, and respect.
And trying to help. Yeah, I guess I'm just on a mission to help adult men understand it.
Yes.
There's a fire in my belly about that one. Like, men that will be fathers and father in laws and be somebody that's in close proximity to a woman going through that. It's such a fragile, beautiful time.
It is. And it ought to be handled with grace and kid
Respect.
gloves and
Yeah.
respect. Yeah. And I don't want this to sound whiny. I don't think we're whiny. I think language is just so powerful for me personally. The difference between us, like when we were evolving into the species that we are today, was that we could imagine things that did not exist. Like our
Mm.
imaginations are huge. Perspective is huge. So I think having this deeper understanding, I think will make motherhood or the choice to become a mother, if that's what you want, easier. And I think it's something that hopefully by the time our kids are old enough to vote, they will see matrescence in legislation. I would love for that to be our reality.
Mm-hmm. I love
Don't
it.
talk to me about getting paid on disability leave.
Yeah, when you have a baby.
Which is what the
Yes.
wording is when you have a baby right now. Don't tell me I'm disabled. I've just done a harder thing than all of the men in politics.
I'd like a weekend at a spa on you.
Right.
And some paid leave.
Right.
And I'd like you to realize when I get back that I'm actually going to be better at my job.
Yeah.
Because I just went through this whole growth.
Anyways, it's not a disability. It is matrescence. Yeah, I think I'm all burned out. Feeling real feisty, but thanks for going down that journey with me.
So fun.
And okay, so listeners, please just text us whatever you're thinking. If you'd like us to respond to you, please shoot us a little DM on Instagram or Facebook or an email. We love emails. Please weigh in. I think this calls for matrescence. I think we need to, if we're gonna ask,
we need to have our husbands on the pod anyway.
I know.
It's about time. So
love you. Bye.
You've been listening to The Real Mom Hub. Our music is by Naomi O'Leary. You can find us on social at The Real Mom Hub. We're not the authority or even very educated on the medical issues discussed. Do your own research, talk to an expert, make your own decisions, and call us if you learn anything new.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram, or better yet, subscribe to our newsletter. If you don't, that's fine. We can all move on. Our purpose here is community, so if we've resonated with you, tell a friend.
Thanks for listening.